Welcome, Julie Van Vechten-Smith. Excited to have you here to teach us and to talk to us about Mindful Explorer traveling. So tell us a little bit about your company.
Thank you. And thanks for having me, SharonAnn. It's great to be here. Thanks. I started Mindful Explorer in order for two reasons, mainly to contribute to the well-being of the environment and communities around the world, and also empower women who want to travel more responsibly and travel better. So my goal is to hopefully provide the tools and the support to do that, to help travelers travel more also mindfully, but also keep in mind better, more responsible practices when they travel so that they can not only give back to the local community, but also have more meaningful experiences along the way.
So those meaningful experiences become the fabric of our future because
Absolutely.
milestones are like little patches on a crazy quilt, maybe not so crazy, but purposeful, and they become our life becomes art because of them. So I love that thinking.
Yeah, that's very well put. I love that as well.
So what are the most transformative experiences that you have had while you travel?
I would say overall, the most transformative experiences have always involved engagement with locals and with other travelers that I've met. So I've tried over the years, not always we have kept to this, but I've learned, and it's what I try to pass on to my clients, that when I engage with locals and I'm taking maybe a local tour or a cooking class or learning a craft or a course, it's so much more meaningful because I get to talk to them and I learn about their culture, maybe some of the language. You learn words or phrases, or they might share some information about local traditions or the history of the country, things like that. So it becomes so much more meaningful in that way. And then also, usually, in one of the things that I'm participating in, there are other international participants as well. And so I always try to talk to them and make new friends and things like that. So it's a great way to also engage with people from around the world and also learn about their cultures as well. So it ends up, instead of just being a passive observer, which I have done plenty of when I travel, and I've realized that's just not very rewarding, that I've learned the key is really that engaging with locals, engaging with other travelers is really where rewarding experiences come from.
I've been invited to random strangers' weddings, baptisms,
Mm-hmm.
or a street festival or
Yeah,
something like that, just
that's
because
great.
I've smiled and said hello to a total
Yeah.
stranger. Sometimes as Americans, we don't know how to interact like that. We don't know what to think about that because this does not happen in our towns.
Well, I think it's, what I've seen when I've participated in different said experiences, that's not just Americans. Everybody looks a little nervous, a little hesitant, like to talk to one another. They kind of stay in their little groups. So, but once either I or somebody else breaks the ice, then everybody starts talking. And it's like, oh, well, where are you from? What's this and that, And so I really recommend that is stepping out of your comfort zone. It might just be, a little uncomfortable at first, but anything that you're interested in, if you're like, hey, where did, whatever it is, you might comment on or ask about that. Once you break that ice, it's going to open doors and you're going to have an amazing experience, no doubt, and make new friends as well.
Well, are you the first one who speaks up and speaks out to total stranger or in general?
No, I haven't. And I've learned it along the way. I'm a people person for sure. So that does help. And I'm curious. So I think between my curiosity and the more that I've traveled, I think also I've become less afraid and I'm interested and I really sincerely want to know about them. And so I think, because of that, I'll speak up. But I've noticed sometimes I was in a cooking class in Italy where there was a couple that was German and they didn't speak any English. And so they were very nervous about it, but we somehow managed to kind of talk in gestures and things. And we had a great time. And you could tell once we did that, they kind of relaxed and they were having more fun and, it became really a great experience. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to share the same language.
That's great to know. I think a lot of us as Americans are afraid in a different country. We're afraid that someone's not going to be able to that we can't communicate what we want or
Mm-hmm.
need. In general, I found sooner or later you can find somebody who speaks enough English to guide you to the bathroom or help you find the best cafe in town or the
Yep.
bakery or the bus stop.
People want to help. I found, I think a lot of what I've found is a lot of people are afraid of things that you find once you're out there that you really didn't need to be so nervous about, that generally people want to help and will do their best to help, what I've in my, experience. But I do really strongly encourage people to at least try to learn some of the key phrases for hello, goodbye, thank you, or excuse me. If you learn nothing else, if you can just, and there's so many great apps, out there now, if you just take some time to just learn some of those phrases, like you said, like doors open, you might be invited to someone's home, or because they're so excited that you're interested and you care enough to try to speak their language. I've had that experience myself, and it really does make a difference knowing some of the local language.
Noticing when I travel is that sometimes people are so drawn to Americans, they would just do anything to have a conversation or to become friends. And I like that. And then
Yeah.
there are some places also that people had the experience of the ugly American. And you and I, neither one of us are like that, but we do notice it.
Yeah.
Can you share a story about when you went on a trip and there was a mishap and it turned into an unforgettable memory?
Can't think of a mishap right off the top of my head, but I can say that I've had experience this spring where I guess you could call it a mishap. I was supposed to travel by train from Stirling, Scotland. It was supposed to be a direct train that I had booked from Stirling, Scotland to London. But when I arrived at the train station, I found that the train was canceled. And so I went into the ticket office and they told me, yep, canceled train, but you'll just have to take the next train to Edinburgh. And when you get to Edinburgh, you have to find the other train that's going to take you to London. I was like, okay, well, I'll figure it out. I've traveled enough. That's okay. And I was waiting for the next train, and a British woman approached me and was confused and flustered because our train had been canceled. And just, so when I explained what we needed to do, she said, oh, well, can we travel together? Can we do this together? And I said, oh, sure, absolutely, no problem. And it ended up being an amazing experience because we ended up talking the whole way. We ended up sitting with a Scottish woman, and the British woman, Eva, her name is Eva, is living in Scotland. And so we all started talking about Scottish food, sheep, all kinds of politics, all kinds of things, sharing food. We ended up, Eva had some food and was kind enough to share it. And so we just had a wonderful time chatting the entire way. And by the time we arrived in London, as we were departing, she had been reading off and on between our conversations a book that she had, and she had just finished it. And she read a little inscription to me and gave it to me and said, I really want you to have this. It was so great to meet you. And that, to me, was like just such an incredible, amazing experience that I hadn't foreseen that day when my train was canceled. So that was really great. Great memory, great experience. And all because she was willing to talk to me and I was open to it. So I think I could have easily said, no, you're on your own. But, we had a great time and I made a new friend. So it was wonderful.
And I think your nature is you want to be helpful. So even if you didn't know much about all of the steps to get back to London, you were willing to help the women get as far as you were getting. So,
well, and she knew, actually, in the end, she knew it better than me because she's British. So she was, in the end, she was helping me, I think, more than I was helping her. So it all worked out. It was great.
So that's the mindfulness part of travel, is being open to experiences no matter where they come from. We don't have to have everything on a schedule, and we don't have to have everything written down in a book. And we're going to accomplish this particular day. Being open when you travel for the schedule flexibility, because a lot of times our transportation is not under our control. We know what we want, but getting it to go where we want, when we want, is often radically different than we expected.
This is very true. And I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the ugly American, because I think a lot of that stems from the fact that a lot of people just don't think about research. They just say, oh, I got to go to wherever it is, Bali, Florence, you name it, Santorini, and everybody tells me it's beautiful and I'm just going to go. And I'm going to take these great photos and I'm going to post them to Instagram and whatever it is that they're looking forward to. But they don't think about the culture. So I, strongly encourage people is take the time to learn about the culture, do a little reading in advance. You have Google at your fingertips. You can Google anything about and just learn about the cultural norms. How do they dress? What time do they eat? What are the religious holidays that could be happening while you're there? And then you can also check out the local events that are happening that you might want to participate in. But I think once you have a better understanding, actually value their culture and are trying to adapt to their culture, then it's less likely that you're going to be that ugly American because you're trying hard to fit in, I guess is for lack of a better word. Yes, you're trying to follow their cultural norms and ways.
It's a mark of respect.
It is. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, you curate travel for people and you help them have the experiences they're looking for in the countries they dream about in ways that they can afford. Did I summarize you?
Yes. Well, yes.
Okay. I've heard people say, I eat dinner at 6:00, period. So wherever I'm going to eat dinner at 6:00.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And when it's been my experience, especially in Europe, nobody eats dinner at 6:00. Nobody.
Yeah.
So how do you have this conversation to help people understand that the greatest experiences are going with the flow of the country you're in, as opposed to trying to hold on to your customs and habits?
No, that's a great point. I think, the reality is they, like you said, sometimes, and this actually happened to me once when I had brought snacks with me. I was in France, in Lyon, and I don't know if I ran out of snacks. I don't quite remember, but I remember I was running around all day trying to see all the sights, as you do. I got back, I was starving, and I thought, surely there's some place open by 6:00. And I looked, and I thought one place wasn't, nothing was. And so when you realize, you just can't, because they are not going to be open. So you have to either bring snacks with you, find other things to do or whatever. So I think once you help people understand that, I understand that that's your norm here, but unfortunately, it's highly unlikely that anything is even going to be open. So let's talk about some strategies for, like bringing some snacks or being prepared or things you can do, maybe eating a bite. In some countries, I know they have an early sort of snack time that might be at 4 or 5 p.m. And then that kind of tides you over until dinner time. That might be between 8 and 10. So I think just helping them understand how things are done there. I think once they understand there's alternatives, most people are willing to adjust, I think.
And part of the charm of eating in the same flow and of the people who live there is people.
Yeah.
So you're sitting at the cafe or a restaurant and you can watch people.
Yeah.
If you're traveling alone or with someone else, you can watch people. And that's part of the fun of being out.
Yeah. Or even join them. A friend of mine, she was just traveling this summer. She and a girlfriend went to Morocco and she was showing me her pictures just over the weekend. And she said, oh, and this is the couple that we ended up sitting with. So I guess she saw that there weren't many places to sit there. They were at a pretty large table. And so she just went up and said, hey, do you mind if we join you? And they said, absolutely not. So they had a great time getting to know these international people. And so it doesn't hurt either to, again, talk to people, and just most people want to engage. So again, if you just have the courage or work up the courage to just speak up and say hello and ask, to join, you can do that too.
You can do it even just with a smile in your eyes.
Oh, this is so true.
So, Julie, how has travel changed your perspective on life, especially now that you are a seasoned traveler?
That's a good question. I would say that overall, I think, as I mentioned before, I think first off, what I realized early on is travel isn't as scary as it may seem. A lot of the fear is in our heads. All of it. Yes, really all of it. Yeah. And so I think when I started traveling solo, a long time ago, I realized I kept thinking I would get lost, or this other thing might happen, or I might get robbed, or I don't know. I had all these things that worked up in my head, and none of that happened. And so that I learned early on was, yes, just wrong. And I try to tell other women, who are so scared to travel solo, like, yes, of course, you should be thinking about where you go. That is important to look at places. Some places are better than others for solo female travelers, but still, you don't need to work yourself up usually with these fears that, like you said, are unfounded. There's just no need for that.
I think it's Mark Twain who said, time I've had, I don't know, 30,000 things to worry about, and none of them have ever happened.
Exactly. And then when you do that and you realize, like, oh, I actually got here or arrived safely or whatever it is, or you finish the whole trip and had an amazing time, it's so empowering, because then you're like, wait, I just conquered this whole fear that I had. Nothing happened. I made it where I wanted to go, or multiple places, and I was just fine. And so I think that also sort of just opens door, and we can extrapolate from that and just, I can be powerful and accomplish more than I ever dreamed. So I feel like that experience with travel just makes you realize, like, I can do so much more in life. So I think that is really important to keep in mind. Also, I've realized once you start traveling, you have more in common. We have more similarities than we have differences.
Yes.
And I think it's so easy for people to go to the, oh, then that's different. And actually we're all pretty alike. We may dress slightly different. We talk different languages, but we have so much in common. So I think
I agree. I found people, no matter where they are and where they come from and where they're going, they love their families.
True. I agree. Yeah.
They love their kids and their grandkids, and they're proud of them, and they want to show pictures, etc. It's a point of commonality. And I think everyone I've ever met in the States is like that too.
True. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah, it opens your mind and you learn so much. And I just feel like that's why what I love about travel. And I worked in international education for years prior to starting my own company, is it literally changes lives. People get out and they conquer those fears, and they learn so much about others, and they learn about themselves. And it's just a game changer.
It is. It's kind of like going to the gym, and you work out and you work out, and pretty soon you have muscles, and then you have muscles to do other things, right?
Right, exactly.
Use those muscles to haul your suitcase around.
Yeah.
Use those muscles to walk farther and climb higher mountains than you ever climbed before. So one thing leads to another. Just like travel, you're exercising a different kind of skill. You're building a skill set that is transferable to entrepreneurial journey, or if you're a writer, to a writer's journey, you have translatable skills.
Exactly.
Once you learn the art of travel. What are your top tips for first-time travelers?
I would say probably what I mentioned before is start with the research. Think about where you want to go, or multiple places you may be going, and why. And then you look at the map of the country and maybe the geography. What's the climate like? And like I said, the culture and the cultural norms and all of those things, but do a little research, and also think about, what do you want to experience while you're there? What are your goals? Is this an adventure trip and you want to have this amazing adventure, either hiking or climbing or rafting or whatever it is, and plan those out. And then also think about doing local activities. So as part of meaningful, positive impact travel that I encourage and support, I focus on local, supporting the local communities. That means hiring local guides, working with local people. And again, you can just use Google. You don't have to go with some of these booking platforms for experiences. You can just look them up and find guides and activities that way. But I highly encourage, and I personally will work in these types of activities or experiences into my clients' travel. I'm also starting to develop group travel experiences. So I will be also incorporating these types of local, whether it's, again, like a cooking class, a supper club. I've done that too. I was in Lisbon. I went to a local supper club dinner. That was really fun. You can do meetup groups. That's also something. I know I talked to some people recently and they said they've never done that, which surprised me because they were younger people. And I said, you can go to a meetup in another city. So there's different things you can do to engage locally and have local experiences. And then also I encourage giving back to and it's supporting the local economy by staying locally, look for local lodging rather than going for the big name chain types of places. Look for local B&Bs or other local accommodations, and also shop local, go to the locally owned stores, and food. Also eat local food, try new things, or eat at a local market, outdoor or indoor market. Try some of the local things there. So that, and with regard to positive impact, I also always encourage people to pack light. I think you were saying earlier about dragging around a suitcase. Pack light, take only really what you're going to wear. I have finally come around to the fact that cute dress or whatever it is I thought I might wear, no, I never did. And just don't take it. Don't pack it. And then also pack eco-friendly items. So eco-friendly toiletries. I also encourage, your reusable bags, all kinds of reusable items and things like that. So just trying to keep, the environment and minimizing the negative impact of your travel is important.
So you can do it. You can pack light. My husband and I took off for a year for Europe.
Nice.
In 2019, and we ended up packing carry-on suitcase that we rolled behind and a backpack, each one of us.
Fantastic.
And we were gone almost 330 days, and then COVID happened, so we were home. But we didn't need more than that. One of the things we found out, and this is kind of the delight of long-term and slow travel, is you're not stuck with only the things that are in your suitcase for the whole year. Tons of stores of all
right.
Including, we found when we were in England, we found a whole street full of charity shops.
Oh, those are great. Yes.
It was thrifting or vintage shopping.
Yep.
That's fun. It's like
I love it.
treasure hunting. So we got rid of what we carried to that particular season. We needed more warm clothes, so we chose wool things and a jacket. And then to spring, we did the other way around. So it's recycling. I call it recycling clothing, which is one of my fun things that I like to do when I travel.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Absolutely. I love that too. And I've done that in the past, like backpacking in Latin America, and just like gave some things away, things like that, and just made room in my bag. And so that's a great point. Yeah.
And if that doesn't float your boat, there are always stores that you buy brand new jeans and brand new Doc Martens and brand new hats or whatever it is that you need or want to buy. So you're not limited to anything really. The world is your oyster, and it's just a question of your imagination around it and comfort zone. And the more you travel, the more you want to travel, and the more comfortable you are in traveling. What do you think, Julie, is one thing that people rarely discuss or mention about their travel guides?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I feel like, a lot of the travel guides focus on where to sleep, where to eat, things to see. And I think the importance of meaningful, mindful travel is that, like I said before, rather than being being a passive observer and just seeing the sights and taking photos and maybe just coming home with photos and some cheap souvenirs, which I have done, I'm not going to lie, is that, if you do take the time, you invest the time and energy in, like I said, learning about the culture and value it and want to be a part of it, and maybe learn some of the language and go out and maybe test yourself and try to talk to people and engage. And I think once you do that, there's no going back, because once you realize how amazing that is and how wonderful it is and how much more fulfilling it is, that you'll say, why was I ever doing it the other way? And I don't feel like we talk about that enough. I feel like the conversation it's happening now, finally. I feel like that is a current thing that we're all working on. A lot of us are, I shouldn't say all, we are working on regenerative travel and these more meaningful, positive impact travel. But I would say, I think is key is just really engaging, having these more meaningful experiences and coming home with so much more, a richer experience.
What I noticed in the travel guides are the tried and true pathways other people have discovered before, and the true mystery of travel, when you do engage, like you're saying, is the locals will tell you about this secret trail or this beautiful
Yes.
waterfall that's not in
Uh-huh.
the guides, or a
That's right.
castle, totally unexpected, that nobody else has in their picture albums or on Instagram. Not that you are a person who wants to be known just for beautiful pictures. And those become the secret places in your heart because someone shared them with you. It's not only
Yeah.
the location and the thing, but someone cared enough about your conversation to share what they know of their area. I will say, I just had this flash of a memory of visiting with friends, Santo Domingo. No, sorry, it's not Santo Domingo. It was in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic.
Oh, okay.
And someone said, "Oh, yeah, you got to go up there on this trail and whatever. And there's a guide who can take you to this beautiful caves and show you things that are not on the normal tourist path." So we
Nice.
went up there. So I was traveling with my used to be husband, and another couple came along with us, friends from San Diego. And we parked, and there was no one else in the parking area. There was a rustling in the bushes, and this man jumped out, and he was dressed like Tarzan. And he says, "I'm Jungle Johnny. I'm going to take you and show you the caverns." And
That's great.
oh, okay. So we didn't know what to think, right? So he spoke very good English. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
so he leads us inside of this cave formation, and we
Wow.
come in, and there was a dark pool of water. And he says, "So what you're going to do is you're going to take this rope and go into the water and pull yourself down and across the bottom and then up into the cavern that's on the other side."
Wow. And you
And
did it.
no, we didn't, because how far down is down?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what happens if somebody cuts a rope? Not okay. I have a vivid imagination.
You do.
It didn't feel very safe to me, and I didn't want to go down to the go in dark water. And who knows? There could be snakes in there. Water. I mean, snakes like water. Some do.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bit creepy. So I would just also suggest investigate the information you get carefully.
And trust your gut, because I feel like your
Okay.
gut always tells you. I feel like, so if you trust that something, I will admit, I've had times when I was traveling, not everything is hunky dory, beautiful, lovely, Instagram, whatever, all this stuff. There really are times where you need to trust your
Yes.
absolutely. And I feel like it won't lead you astray. So,
You're absolutely right. So let's say that someone wants to work with you to curate their perfect next travel experience.
mhm.
About how long will it take for you to work with them to come up with the right plan?
It really depends on where they're going and for how long. It could be anywhere from a few months to a year. So it just depends on how involved it is. I always just tell people reach out, just you can contact me. I know you're including my contact info below.
Yes.
So if they just email me, call, whatever works best, or, contact me via Facebook, Instagram, what have you. I'm always happy to chat and we can figure out, what makes the most sense. But like I said, I'm also about this new project to create my own group experiences. So I've got one. I just spoke with someone who's going to collaborate with me on it. She's French. It's going to be in France. It's going to be amazing. So I'm super excited to take a group and have just an amazing experience abroad. Doing all the French things. So yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Mhm.
So all somebody needs to do is just follow the trail in the show notes, how to find you. They can
Absolutely. My
your
website
website
has everything. Hmm.
and then reach out and have a conversation and
Hmm.
just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Nike
Exactly.
commercial, do it.
Right. And I do, it's like I support women primarily because what I found having worked in international education, it's mostly the women who are either going abroad or planning to travel for their significant other, family, friends, or what have you. So That's why I focus on women, but the travel is for everyone. So I just want to make that clear. It's like it's not just women only, and it's not just solo women either. So I'm happy to chat with people about whatever their travel interests are and help them make it happen. Yeah.
That's great. I found that a lot of times people have this dream of traveling when they retire. So people stepping into retirement and then they have this amazing dream in their head, but they don't know how to execute it. So you are the perfect person for that.
Yes, yes. I'd be
Julie, I
happy to.
appreciate your time to come
Thank you.
educate us and help us understand more about travel and that there's nothing wrong with travel except if you don't.
Exactly. Well put. Thank you, Sharon. And it was great to be here. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.